RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
And now you've got yourself something funky.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
And welcome to RTF Sports Talk. I am Michael Buckeister, the host today on today's show here. I am joined, as always, with Billy Hatton and Matthew Lyle. How are you guys doing today?
It's been a rough day for me, but ready to roll. Let's go ahead and talk some sports.
Yeah, man, I'm ready to roll. Weather's not perfect, but this weekend is what I live for when it comes to sports. I got Friday night a last expedition basketball game for my Kentucky Wildcats at 7. At 10:30, I get to watch Warriors versus T-Wolves. Saturday's got a gorgeous slate of football games. Sunday we got another beautiful slate of NFL. We got Monday Night Football, and then Tuesday we get the college basketball season started right with the Champions Classic, which is always, no pun intended, a classic. So I'm excited, ready to get rolling.
All right, guys. So let's just go ahead and jump into today's show here. College football playoff rankings came out earlier this week. They released the top 20 on 25. Just to run through the quick top 25 here. At 25, you have Virginia. 24, you have Iowa State. 23, Fresno State. 22, Boston College. 21, NC State. 20, a real surprise to me, Texas A&M. Number 19, Syracuse. 18, Mississippi State. 17, Texas. Number 16, Iowa. 15, you have the Utah. 14, you have the Penn State. 13, you have West Virginia. Number 12, you have Central Florida. At 11, you have Florida. 10, you have the Ohio State. At number 9, you have Matthews Lyle, Kentucky Wildcats here. Number 8, Washington State. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 6, Georgia. Number 5, Michigan. Number 4, the undefeated Notre Dame. Number 3, LSU. Number 2, Clemson. And number 1, Alabama. So before we get too far into it, Matthew, I'm going to start with you. Do you agree how the committee placed these teams? And if you don't, what would you change, and what is your top 10 in the college football playoff rankings in your eyes?
Okay, let me navigate through this. First off, I like the rankings. I like any type of rankings that allows me to compare my mindset with another mindset. I think that a lot of times they are on par. Sometimes there's a little crazy thing. But with the committee, I've always noticed this, and they say this isn't true, but I truly think it is. In the first power ranking or the first playoff ranking, they like to send messages. If they did it a couple years ago with Louisville, they do it every year with one or two teams. If they like to say, hey, I think we should focus more on conference wins or tougher non-conference schedule, they will take a team that probably deserves to be in the top 10 and put it at 17 just to send a message because, surprise, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do any damage. I mean, there's twice at least in the playoffs has a team who in the first ranking started like 15th and 19th, found their way in the Final Four. So I think you can't really look too much into this first one because I truly think they use it to send messages. Now, you went through the entire 25 there. The back half is always tough to really navigate through because there's so many 2- and 3-loss teams that you really can't nitpick on that too much. I mean, you could find a way. You could always have an argument for this team, that team. That's why they got the other receiving group. You start getting up a little bit. I was surprised that after winning, I think, what are they up to, 15 or 16 straight, UCF is still starting out at number 12. That really shocked me. Another thing, you're going to be surprised hearing this from me. When I look at rankings, a lot of times I do like to look at records, but a lot of times I like to look at who's the better team. I am really surprised that Ohio State was ranked behind Kentucky. Now, I've seen a lot of cases on how Kentucky's a pretty solid team or a pretty good SEC East team. But Ohio State, they got a lot of weapons. They got a lot of pros on that team. Now, yes, if you wanted to send the message that Kentucky's one loss came into overtime to a Texas A&M team, which is better than losing by 40 to a Purdue team, they're both on the road. I get it, but that one really sad me. The rest of the top five, I mean, yeah, I think a message was sent. I don't really have too much of a problem with it, putting LSU ahead of an undefeated Notre Dame. I think that was playing with house money because that game, that's going to take care of itself this weekend anyway. If LSU beats Bama, then obviously they deserve to be ahead of them. If they lose, which they probably will, then they're just going to fall right back, so it doesn't matter. My top 10, at number 1, I got Bama, definitely. Can't argue with that. Number 2, I got Clemson, still undefeated. They almost lost to Syracuse, but they managed to get it together. They made a quarterback switch. It seems to be paying off a little better now. They seem to be clicking a little better. They played Florida State. It's a nice win to try to get going. They get a Louisville team this week that I think they're going to demolish. At number 3, I do have undefeated Notre Dame. I think with their win against Michigan, looks even more impressive. As Billy can attest, I'm an SEC loyalist, and I don't think Vanderbilt's very as trash as a lot of people do. This team competed with a strong game, a solid defense, and yes, it came away close, but I'm not going to take that away from Notre Dame. At number 4, I do got LSU. I think they do have one of the better defenses in the country. They have a questionable loss in Florida, but I think Florida's getting better. At number 5, I got Michigan. I think Michigan's coming in strong. 6, I got Oklahoma. Yes, they lost a rivalry game at a neutral site, but I think with Kyler Murray back there, they got a lot of upside. Number 7, I got Ohio State. No, I apologize. At 7, I got Georgia. And then at 5, I got Georgia. Then Oklahoma, Ohio State, Kentucky, and UCF finish out my top 10.
Just to start off, as Matthew said, the bottom half of that top 25 is kind of hard to decipher, especially, you're not watching every single one of those teams every single week. A lot of those teams got 2 and 3 losses. I think the only team, down there you mentioned was Fresno State with 1 loss. They sitting at 23. But I'm just going to focus really more on not even really the top 10 because I think a lot of this stuff is going to work itself out. As we say all the time on this show, the committee likes to do this. They put LSU at number 3. I'm okay either way, whether they win or lose. I mean, whether they're at 3 or they're at 4, whether you have Notre Dame at number 3 because they're the undefeated team. It's something about being undefeated that you also have to reward. That's the one thing I will say about the committee that I don't like, that they don't really value being undefeated. But I'm okay with LSU being at number 3 because of they're going to play Alabama this Saturday. So what the committee basically did was they put all the pressure on LSU. LSU, you think that you're good, you think that you got it. Well, go show us this week. You win, you stay in the top 4. You in the playoffs right now. Obviously when you control your own destiny in the SEC West. The face whoever, Georgia or Kentucky, that's going to come out right now. So I like it because they either will still be there or they won't be there. So one of them teams is going to cancel each other out. I like that they got Michigan right there at number 5. I think since that 1 loss to Notre Dame, who's undefeated, I like that. A lot of these teams are going to play themselves back into the playoffs. Georgia, they get their chance. They're going to play Kentucky this weekend. You win, you get basically an easy road to the SEC championship, and you handle your business. You're probably going to be in. Oklahoma, I still think right there at number 7. I like that for them. They still have a chance in that Big 12. I mean, in the Big to control their own destiny. With 1 loss. The same as for Ohio State. They still have Michigan left on their schedule. So they're going to have room, or they're going to have, I guess I could say, credence to control their own destiny. The one team I don't think is going anywhere is Clemson. I think Clemson is going to stay right there, probably at number 2, because if LSU beat Alabama, I know what the committee is going to do. They're going to put LSU at number 1. If Alabama beats LSU, well, guess what? They're going to say, well, we knew it all along. Alabama is the best team in the country. So really, I didn't have any really problems with the with the first rankings, I think this is probably spot on because a lot of these teams, as I mentioned, they still have a bulk of their schedule. Michigan, they play Penn State this week. They still got to play Ohio State, and if they win out, they go into the Big Ten championship. So I like what they did, letting a lot of teams put the pressure on a lot of these teams that we think may be good, but there's still some questions. They probably lost to some questionable teams, but they giving them a chance to play their way back in. I have no problem with it.
Now, one thing, Billy, you brought up a good point that the committee doesn't seem to respect the undefeated fact. And I think the reason they do that is it gives them a cop-out because the fact of going undefeated speaks for itself. You don't have to defend undefeated unless maybe you're a UCF. But for the most part, if you're a Power 5 team, you'd never have to defend going undefeated. But if the committee was to come forward and early on reward undefeatedness, and then they tried to slither a 1-loss or a 2-loss Bama in it, everybody would be like, well, what happened to rewarding undefeated? So I think what they do is they say, hey, we don't care about undefeated because if you go undefeated, that will defend itself. We've talked about this, how they're trying to put multiple SEC teams in. I truly think that's what they want. So they started by putting LSU right here saying, see, you don't have to be undefeated. You just have to look good. And that way, when the time comes and they do put 2 SEC, or if they ever get to a point where they put 3 SEC teams into the playoff, they can say, well, we've never put emphasis on undefeated. We always put our emphasis on who looks the best on the field. We always put it on who needs over most deserving. So I don't think they don't ever feel the need to put an undefeated team up there because if they choose to slide one in, it's going to explain itself. They're trying to defend and give themselves an out when they put in multiple loss teams.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going back to the start of things, after Florida State won the national championship in 2013, that was the last year of the BCS. Very next year, we go undefeated. We're the 3rd seed. So yeah, you have a point there. They never really value. Basically, to me, I'm going to say wins and losses because to me, the way that they've been doing this, wins and losses really don't matter. It's really if they like you or not. If the committee likes you, you're probably going to get in. Yeah, I know they factor other stuff in, schedule. But if they did that, then Alabama would probably never be at the top of the rankings because they never have a tough schedule. Really, they have Auburn, who is a rival regardless, and then, they play LSU. But relatively speaking, Alabama never really play a tough schedule, especially out of conference schedule. Like some of these other teams do. So yeah, you have a good point there. They really never really value undefeatedness, if that's even a word. They just value their eye test, I guess, if I like you. Yeah, exactly. I like you, so this is what we're going to do. But all in all, this ranking here is probably the most, I guess I could say, fair ranking that I've seen probably out of any time that they ever did any rankings. So, yeah, to me, I have no problem with it.
Well, and one thing I think they also did, especially from the SEC front, and that's really why I want to focus this point, is if you look at the rankings that came out from the AP poll or the coaches poll, this created more buzz on paper. Because if you go with an AP poll this weekend, and I know I'm nitpicking here, but just think of how it pops a little better. If you look at the AP poll with the matchup this weekend, they bring Bama versus number 4 LSU. They give you number 7 Georgia versus number 11 Kentucky. Now with these college football rankings, the SEC is giving you 2 top 10 matchups: number 1 versus number 3, 6 versus 9. It just has a little extra pizzazz to it. That's why it wouldn't have shocked me at all if they would have put LSU number 2, just to completely sell the battle that was happening this weekend as if it needed any extra hype. But it's not all the time outside of a championship game you get 1 versus 2. So I think that also like to do that. I think it looked. I mean, I can't argue too much with the top 10 ranking, but I think certain things that was made, it just looks better on paper.
So let me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Go ahead, Mike.
So let me ask you guys this question: every year that the college football playoff has been in place here, the first week that the rankings come out, there's always that one team that never makes the playoffs. Who is that team this year in your guys' eyes?
I think that's easy. I think it's LSU. I think they lose to Bama. That's the easy answer, really. Honestly, to me, I think Clemson losing. I don't see Alabama losing. Notre Dame could lose, but I think LSU right now have the greater chance to lose a game and not make it in because they're in Alabama's, division. So I think LSU, for me, easy answer, LSU. I don't think they get in.
I think LSU is probably the more practical answer, and on account of what Billy's saying. Now, I will say, just to kind of switch it up a little bit, if you look at the big picture, let's say LSU loses, and even if it's a relatively close one, they're going to fall from 3 to maybe 6. You know what I'm saying? If Notre Dame's got a really good game, not in the eyes of everyone, but it's a good trap game against Northwestern. If Notre Dame loses to an undefeated Northwestern, they're going to drop from 4 to probably 12 or 13. At least outside the top 10 if they lose that game. So I think LSU, in theory, could climb themselves back up. Say Clemson loses, say Michigan loses, Ohio State. LSU could find themselves right back in the number 4 seed. If Notre Dame loses anything, I see them dropping outside the top 10 and then not being able to crawl back into the top 8. So just to be a little different from Billy, I'm going to go Notre Dame on this one.
Just for me, though, I don't think LSU will – I think LSU, to be able to climb their way back in, they would need a lot of help. I mean, they would need Georgia to lose again, which probably they will in the SEC championship because we're going to get to that later. They need Oklahoma to lose another game. They would need Washington State to lose another game. Kentucky is very well there in that SEC race. They would need them to lose another game. I just don't see them. And then, again, if UCF run the table, are they going to be able to put a 2-loss LSU team in front of an undefeated UCF team again, and leave UCF out of that playoff discussion if they're right there? I just find that to be hard. Now, I could see a team like Georgia maybe, but LSU, I don't think LSU could lose another game right now and then climb their way back in.
I mean, you say that, and maybe it's I've looked at obstacles to see what's Kentucky's option, what's the West option. I could easily see Georgia or LSU losing a really close game to Bama, sliding to about number 6. Then you have Oklahoma lose one more, Michigan lose to Penn State, Michigan beat Ohio State, Notre Dame lose, and they're right back in there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They need a lot of help. They would need a lot of help in order for them to climb back in there. That's why I think if they lose now, I think it's over with. I don't think any 2-loss team not named Alabama is getting into the playoffs unless, you're the loser of the SEC championship against Alabama. And I think maybe if it's a competitive game, Georgia or Kentucky, I think whoever wins this game is going to run their table in the East, and they will see Alabama in the SEC championship. I just don't think a 2-loss non-conference champ or even a team that didn't even get to the conference championship, I don't think they get in, because at that point, especially for LSU, then there are going to be the questions coming out. Is Burrows the guy, and all that other stuff. I think for some of these other teams, Haskins, you'd be like, well, Haskins is a Heisman Trophy candidate. Look at what he done. You would look at Georgia and be like, well, they did lose to LSU, but that was on the road. Everybody knows Death Valley is a tough place to play. So I think Georgia, Alabama are probably the only teams that could probably lose 2 games this year and be okay. But definitely not if you didn't make it to your conference championship. I don't think you get in with 2 losses. But I understand exactly what you're saying.
Right. As far as Georgia, I think for Georgia and Kentucky, and focus on the SEC, that's why I'm bringing those 2 up, are kind of like, in NASCAR when you pass your last pit stop and no matter how much gas you have, you're trying to finish this out. There's a point of no return. Because it's already proven that the loser of this Kentucky-Georgia game will have their second loss, and they can't make the SEC East. So if you win, and then the schedule for both is so easy down the backstretch that even the winner of each other, even though the winner will make it to the SEC East, if Kentucky loses to Tennessee or Georgia loses to Georgia Tech, they forfeit any right they have anyway. The committee's going to drop them so far that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If they beat Bama, they're not going to make it back on that.
Or especially a loss to Georgia Tech. That'd be tough.
Right.
That'd be just tough.
Right. And And even though Tennessee has the rivalry over Kentucky, the committee does like to look at 1 year, and Tennessee's not looking good this year. So
No.
that's even though that's a rivalry game, even though the
Past
Louisville,
2 years, they haven't looked good.
right? Yeah, in the Louisville Kentucky rivalry game, even when Kentucky went 2-10 and Louisville made the Orange Bowl, Louisville and Teddy Bridgewater only beat Kentucky by 7. The committee's not going to take that into account. If we lose to a 2-3 win Louisville team, it don't matter if we're number 2 in the country; they'll drop us to 10. Because
You might as well
to go
book
back
it.
to our beginning point, Kentucky doesn't have that leverage like Bama does. Bama has that good credit. Ohio State somewhat has that good credit. Kentucky, maybe even Georgia to a point, doesn't yet.
All right, guys, so let's go down and move on. Speaking of excellent college football games here, the most marquee matchup of the weekend, in my eyes, is Bama versus LSU. So, Matthew, who do you got in this game?
So, I have a convoluted way. This is how Kentucky wins the national championship, as silly as that sounds. They beat Georgia, LSU beats Bama, and then Kentucky finds a way to beat LSU in the championship game. But that's just dreams. That's just wants and wishes. What's really going to happen is Bama's going to carry on with their crusade. Probably not going to be 60-20 type score, but I could see them easily getting 38-14 type win. And the best defender for LSU is out the first half. Usually that's not too big of a deal, but when Alabama's been averaging almost 40 points in the first half, LSU can't come back from that. Even LSU, I don't even have faith that LSU has the offense to come back from 28-0 at half, 28-7 at half. I think Tua has the ability, and that offense has the ability to get into the scores. And I just don't know if White at that linebacker spot can be that much of a difference maker in the second half when Bama already loves just to turn around and hand the ball off. It's not like this is Oklahoma or Ohio State who likes to score with the ball in the air, and that's how they keep the pedal to the metal. Bama loves to run the ball. Tua just allows them to pass it. So I think Tua is going to swing it around the first half. They're going to get a nice lead, and even when White comes back in, they're just going to go ground and pound and preserve whatever lead they got. I got Bama by at least 14.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Bama wins this. I had on my notes 40-24. I believe Bama wins this. It just won't be enough, whatever LSU got going on. Burrow, I think this is the 1 year that when you're LSU, you can't afford to not have a guy who's – I mean, he's solid. I just wouldn't pick him over a lot of some of the previous LSU quarterbacks that actually had a chance to beat this Alabama team, and especially – beating this Alabama team now with Tua back there, 25 touchdowns. This guy hasn't even thrown an interception all year long. He's only thrown like 8 passes in the second half of all the games that they played so far. Of all 8 games, this is just I honestly don't even think this will be close. Even if they wasn't missing him, the guy from LSU, Judy. I mean, this guy is a special talent. Now I'm pretty sure. I just don't see a scenario in which LSU wins this game. Now they do have one thing on their side. It's a night game at Death Valley. We know how that goes. Alabama has been known to fumble those games in Baton Rouge. Also, they've had a few close ones. The T.J. Yeldon year where they barely won. Off that screen pass by Yeldon. But this one, it just don't seem like it's going to be that close. Alabama big. I think this game is over with quick.
And to your point there, Billy, you're right. Bama has struggled in night games at Baton Rouge, but they've never really had a true quarterback. They've had a serviceable quarterback. They've had a Bama quarterback, but this Tua kid doesn't seem to be able to be shook in or shaked at all. Like, he is just cold.
That's why I don't think it's going to be close.
Right. That's why I think if the man can come in at halftime, rusty as can be, of the national championship game and throw a game-winning dime, I don't see Baton Rouge when he's starting, when he's already got 8 games under his belt, when he's running like a well-oiled machine. Not only has he not thrown an interception, he's not thrown a pass in the fourth quarter. I just don't see them being able to get to him. If something happens and he goes out and you got to put Hurd back there, then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you can get to him.
I was just about to bring up that point because, Tua has been hurt. With that knee injury for about 4 or 5 weeks now. He's been playing with that. I think they said like a sprain, whatever it is, in his knee. If he goes out, this game could be interesting because now they have to solely rely on that running game. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is the type of guy that could probably get them through this game unless they have a big lead already and he can continue to run the football.
I'll be honest with you, as ridiculous as it sounds, as good as I think Bama is, if Tua suffers a major injury, I think the season's over for them.
For sure.
And not because I think this Bama team is worse than any other Bama team that won the title. It's just Tua.
It's just like all the other Bama teams.
Well, it is, but I'm to the point that won the national championship. Not even last year's team that got it done, or the year before that made it to the championship game. I'm talking in a sense that you have 5-star recruits who are chilling. These guys are on cruise control. Now all of a sudden you're driving in a Maserati down the interstate at 85 miles an hour, cruise control, hand out the door, foot off the gas, like just laid back, arm around your girl in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden traffic comes to an abrupt stop. Now everybody else all of a sudden has to do something. Now that line has to block a little harder, which they can do, but they're not used to it. The defense has to go a little harder. They can do, they're not used to it. Receivers have to run a little harder, a little shorter, cut their routes off a little different, which they can do, but they're not used to it. That is, even though they are a well-oiled machine, and I think 1-53, they are the best team in college football. If that goes down and this team has to change the way they've done it the 8 games, I think it's a wrap.
Yeah, I just think Tua is the X factor. I just think he's the one guy. I kind of always say this about the Golden State Warriors. I think the one guy that they can't afford to lose is Kevin Durant on that team, and any team will have, it'll be an even playing field. That's how I feel about this Alabama team. Tua is the one guy that I think that they cannot lose because Jalen Hurts makes them normal. He makes them just a normal Alabama team. Tua takes them over the top where it's like you can't just, put eight guys in the box and load up and try to stop the running game. You actually have to defend every piece of the field, every blade of grass, as they say. You have to defend it with Tua. I just don't think Jalen Hurts is that guy. So if they lose Tua, God forbid, knock on wood, nobody ever really asks for injuries. But if they was to lose him in this game, I think LSU would have a really good shot.
And if you look at, you talked about undefeated teams in college football, everybody who's gone undefeated and won a national championship in college football are really, really good teams. Like, everybody's good. Every position's great. But they have that one difference maker, that one player that takes you from 14-1 to 15-0. This year's team, the Florida State team, is Jameis Winston. Great team, but that team could have probably lost a game somewhere.
Oh, for sure. If we had Clint Trickett in there or somebody, yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, still probably don't win 10, 11, 12 games, but Jameis Winston takes it to 14. This team right here on its own could win 10, 11 games easily, could win the SEC probably pretty easily on a neutral site in the Georgia Dome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But Tua takes them to that next level. And even though if you played this whole year without Tua, I think Bama still had a shot to win the title. But take him out mid-season and you have to change the culture 8 games in, I think that could be very troublesome.
For sure.
All right, guys. So moving on to the next game in the SEC, possibly the most game that people have to win and people have to lose. Georgia versus Kentucky. Matthew Lyle, who do you got on this one?
So I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. I'm going to answer this with my head. I'm going what I think is going to happen, and then I'm going to try a little reverse psychology. I think Georgia's the better team. I think top to bottom, starters, Georgia is the better team. Now, there's some neutralizers there. They do have to come to Lexington with Kroger Field, no longer Commonwealth Stadium, which the last couple of times they've won. The last time they were here, Georgia won on a field goal, and the year before they won by a touchdown. So the games here have been close. A couple of things in our favor, 2 things that Kentucky does really well: rush the passer with Josh Allen and run the ball with Benny Snell. That just happens to be the 2 Achilles heels for Georgia. They struggle to stop the run, and that right tackle, they don't really have. They rotate through the guys trying to find a way to stop normal pass rushers. I think Josh Allen and them could have a big game. But what you're going to have, and me and you talked about this last night, Mike, you're going to have everyone else on Kentucky stand up and play for the first 3 quarters. You're going to have Terry Wilson throw accurate passes for 3 quarters. You're going to have other guys get from for 3 quarters. You're going to have DBs create turnovers for 3 quarters. So when you get to the 4th quarter, it's a close game. tied, 1 point, 6 point lead one way or the other. And then for the final 15 minutes, you can shove Benny down their mouth. You can get Josh Allen just to pin the ears back and just rush from. You can do that in the final. If you rely on Benny to carry the ball 40, 50 times this game, I don't like how that goes. If Josh Allen has to rush the passer every rip and they start – Braun's a smart and a good quarterback. If he's able to trick Allen and get him in some unfavorable positions, it could be ugly. There's a part of me that does say, yes, Georgia is better. I could see us losing 27-24. But also there's a part of me that wants to pick that because I have a feeling Billy's going to pick that. And me and Billy, when we pick together, are always wrong. I would love that. And when I pick Kentucky games and I pick us to lose, we've won every one. So I'm going to continue that. I'm going to say Georgia 27, Kentucky 24.
You was close. I think you know me now. I got Georgia winning this 27-17. For a lot of the reasons that you said, for me, I think, I've been saying all year, I think Georgia's the second best team in college football. Even after they lost to LSU, I still thought that they were the better team. Even though I picked against them last week, I just thought Florida was coming in at home. They got their chance to take the control of the East. With Georgia coming off a bye week, I thought they would be a lot more energized, and they was at first, but Georgia kind of pulled away at the end. I think that's what this game is going to be. Fromm is playing with tremendous confidence now. I think now he feels, that he don't have to look over his shoulder, where they're going to put Fields in after every mistake he made. So I think he's playing with a little more confidence, and this Georgia team really goes as he goes. When Fromm plays well, this team is almost unstoppable. Almost unstoppable. I like the two-headed monster out of the backfield and Holyfield and Swift. I like that. Really, it's starting to kind of come alive a little bit. I just think, the toughest part for me is going to be, well, not for me, but the toughest thing for Georgia is going to be this Kentucky defense. I mean, these guys are for real. And we already knew that down in Florida State. We rented Stoops for a year before he left and took the job at Kentucky. So I know firsthand what a Stoops defense looks like. And he got these boys rolling. They only 13 points per game. I mean, that is insane, especially considering some of the teams that Kentucky has had to play so far. They haven't played a little Rudy Poop schedule, as I talked about with Alabama. They played some real teams so far. So you're talking about to be 13, be holding opponents to 13 points per game. That's going to be tough. I just think Georgia's rolling right now. They can see the finish, and they know that they control their destiny, as well as Kentucky. That's why I said it's going to be a close game. I just think it's going to be really, really. I think it's going to be a 20-17 ball game going to about the fourth quarter. I think that one mistake is going to cost Kentucky, and Swift or really they get loose or something like that, and they score to kind of cap the game off. I got Georgia winning. I think it's going to be closer than the score, though.
If you wake up, I'm going to pretend that you slept through the game. If you wake up from your afternoon nap and you see Kentucky win, is it fair to say that in order for that to happen, Benny Snell has to have at least 120 yards, at least one touchdown, and on defense Josh Allen would have probably had a fumble and maybe either the second fumble or the defense come up with a pick? Like that's the kind of output you're going to have to see because I don't imagine, like you said, Fromm plays very well. I don't imagine Kentucky's going to win this game in a shootout, whether it be with Terry Wilson throwing for 500 yards, don't see that happening, or Terry Wilson out throwing Fromm without the defense creating turnovers. Or even to the further point, if you don't make him turn the ball over, his confidence is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. To your first point, I think Snell does have to get at least he has to at least eclipse that 100-yard mark for Kentucky to even be close in this game to me, because I think the one, and you know this team better than I do. I think the one down spot is your quarterback position. So I think in order to help him out, I think Snell has to have a good game running the ball. Now, I I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, if I slept through the game and I woke up and Kentucky won, the first thing that I'm probably gonna allude to is Fromm had a bad game. Because I just do not think he could have a bad game against this team, the way that this defense is set up, the way that these guys are flying around on the defensive side of the ball. I do not see him having a bad game and Georgia winning this game, especially on the road. These fans are going to be amped. These guys, I've never been to a Kentucky game, but I can only imagine a team that hasn't been in the spotlight for a long time, and now they got a chance to – they know that if they win this game, they're probably going to go to the SEC championship, barring any, catastrophic injury or anything crazy. These fans are going to be crazy. So I can't imagine Jake Fromm getting behind the chains a lot, throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball, making bad reads, and they still win this game, because all that's going to do is give Benny Snell, I think that's going to give him even more confidence when he hears that crowd. And Georgia playing on the road, we've seen what they did on the road so far against a good team. That could very well happen again on Saturday.
All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to Big 12, Texas versus West Virginia. Matthew, who you got?
I think it's, we sat here and we just had a discussion how the dream season can continue for Kentucky. I think the dream season is over for Texas. They lost a game, got a big win, got back into it, found themselves in the top 10, and then they gave it away to Oklahoma State. West Virginia still has a real shot. If West Virginia can pull this one off and then go out here and beat Oklahoma, win the Big 12, and some other things fall their way, they could find themselves in the playoffs. I think Texas, it's over for them. I think mentally they may have checked out on this. At that point, it's one of those weird things when your team starts realizing their season's pretty much over this late in the season, which it's not, but I think it really is. And if rumors keep swirling, I've heard Tom Herman's name get brought up in a lot of NFL jobs. Does he start peeking down that cookie jar and see what's in that box? I think West Virginia, I think it's a pretty close game. It's going to be high scoring, as it often is in the Big 12. I think it's probably pretty close to halftime, but West Virginia pulls away. Will Greer at the end. I got them winning. I got West Virginia winning by 20.
Wow, I didn't expect that one at all from you, Matthew. I really did. Let me ask you a question before I go. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference? Because you got to win it by 20. I mean, what do you think? You think Ellinger is not going to have a good game? You think he's going to throw a bunch of picks? What you think is going to happen here? Or you just think Will Greer is going to be the Heisman Trophy candidate that we thought he was at the beginning of the year?
Neither, but a little bit of either. As weird as that sounds, this is why I never bet on football. The spread could be 10, or, the spread could be 10 and you could lose by 14, but the game is close. It's funny that, New England, the Super Bowls, on average, they've won in the first 3 years. They won them by, or every year they won them by like 3-5, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the closest Super Bowl they had was actually the one they won by the most. They beat Atlanta by 6. That's the biggest Super Bowl win they have ever had, and that was by far the closest game. So football is really tough to try to get predicting lines. I think the game's going to be close. I think Greer and that offense is going to make a big play in the fourth. Texas is going to come out trying to do too much, turn the ball over. Greer's going to put the cap, that offense is going to put the cap on the game, get another touchdown, and then with like 3 or 4 minutes to go, Texas trying to get a desperate drive, pick 6 or something. That's how I think it's going to go. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to come to an all, like a big slaughtering halt down the stretch. Okay, well,
I got Texas winning this game 31-27. I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I like Ellinger. I like what he can do on the running the ball. He hasn't been too bad passing either. He hasn't made many mistakes, and that's what you need out of your quarterback. Will Greer, I think he kind of took a few steps back. I know even since last year, this guy was one of the hype quarterbacks coming back into the season this year. And you're right, West Virginia is right there. They beat Texas. They could be very well, in the driver's seat as far as not really in the driver's seat, but kind of like when you was younger, I guess, you used to drive with your dad or your grandpa, used to sit you on your lap. I think they're right there. I don't think they're fully in the driver's seat if they win this game, but I think they could be right there because they still need a lot of stuff to happen. Oklahoma obviously is ahead of them in the ranking. But I think Ehlinger is going to be the difference in this game. I think he has at least 4 touchdowns in this game. West Virginia really hasn't been known for their defense, although this year they have been playing pretty well defensively. But I just think the way Ehlinger can run the football, the way Tom Herman put these guys in the offense, the way he puts them into position, I think this could be a really, really big game for Ehlinger and could, bust the hopes of West Virginia. So that's why, to me, I thought this game was a pick 'em. I could have went either way. I could have made a case for either team. I just think Texas is probably still kind of mad about what happened last week. They want to take that. They want to get that revenge. They want to put that anger on somebody else. I think West Virginia is just, the next man up. I think they win it in a narrow margin.
See, I was talking to Mike about this, about my same fear I have for Kentucky. Sometimes when these surprise teams come up, they're bubble thin. And this time last week, you had Texas and West Virginia both, depending on what poll you were looking at, in the top 10. Both teams had a chance to be in this playoff ranking. And now, 1 week later, Texas is playing for an Outback Bowl or a Peach Bowl, and West Virginia still got playoff hopes alive. A lot of times when these dreams are shattered like that, you don't get those teams don't tend to come out angry, like you said, wanting revenge, like you said. They come out with their tail tucked between their legs and their head pouting, and end up losing, and then they find themselves nowhere near that Outback Bowl. They find themselves in a Liberty Bowl or something. So I think me and you value Texas' experience and leadership at this point differently. You think it's going to result in a win. I think it's going to result in a decent half to 3 quarters, and then they're just going to try to do too much and lose it.
I can see that happen as well.
All right, guys, so let's move on to the final intriguing college football game of the weekend, Penn State versus Michigan. Definitely a big game for both teams. So, Matthew, who do you have on this one?
I'm going to revert back to what I said, I believe it was a couple weeks ago. Michigan tends to do 2 things. They like to lose to a team you don't think they're going to lose to, and they like to lose to Ohio State. They've already lost to that team you didn't think they were going to lose to in Notre Dame, and Penn State's not Ohio State. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think the difference maker is going to be that Harbaugh seems to kind of win these type of games, and it's in Michigan. If it was in Penn State, I would feel like I do against the Kentucky-Georgia game. My answer to the Kentucky-Georgia game was way different because it's in Lexington opposed to Georgia. If this was in Penn State, I would be like, ooh, maybe I could go Penn State. But with it not being, I got to go Michigan. I think Michigan wins by probably 10.
Yeah, that's what I got. I got Michigan 34-24. Shea Patterson is playing good. It seems like he's adapted in this Harbaugh offense. Offensive line is playing way better than what they were doing last year, and even in the first game when they lost to Notre Dame. I think, as I said in the Kentucky and Georgia game, the biggest thing for here in this game is Michigan's rush defense, who's only allowing 97 rush yards per game. And then you got Penn State, who's averaging, I believe, is like 220 some yards of rushing. I think that's going to be, if Penn State do pull it out, I think that's going to be the reason why. With Trace McSorley leading that charge, but I think Michigan is going to be too much. I think, as Matthew said, this ain't Ohio State, and they've already lost that other game. I think they get this done at the Big House. Michigan by 10, 34-24.
All righty, guys. So those are some of the most marquee matchups this week in college football here. So let's switch gears into the NFL. The trade deadline has came and gone. Some of the most intriguing trades was Clinton Dix was traded to the Redskins, Amari Cooper to the Cowboys, Dante Flower to the Rams. And then you have Ty Montgomery getting traded to the Ravens as well. So, Matthew, the question to you is, who is the biggest winner and the biggest loser in these most recent transactions/trades in the 2018 season?
So the biggest winner to me is a tie, and it's because you have contending teams that added just one more piece to the block. I know it went on the trade deadline. I think New England did that a little while ago when adding Josh Gordon. It just gives another weapon, another dimension as they bring Edelman back. I was a little disappointed as a fan they didn't make a move, but I think you see the contenders trying to make a move. Carson Wentz trying to come back, trying to gel with his offense, trying to find that. They give him another weapon to take. It's a rent-a-player, but if one more playoff run or one more Super Bowl run, and I think you would say that's worth it. You look at them at Fowler going to the Rams. That Rams front line was ridiculous anyway with Brockers, Donald, and Sue. It gets even crazier. And when the corners all get healthy and when everybody starts, you got linebackers who we thought was their biggest question mark before. They seem to be developing in their own. If that offense can keep up for the Rams, I think these are two moves that made you from contenders to elite contenders. You know, I think there's only 4 teams now that I think have a shot at winning the Super Bowl, and 2 of them maybe got a little leg up on making a big trade. As far as goes, see, I was having this discussion with a lot of people. They were saying, why this year? Why is this year's trade deadline so exciting? They're typically not. And I think because we have the haves and has-nots in the NFL now. You have the playoff teams that think they can legitimately do something, and then you have the losing teams who are just trying to build, and they're okay with that. One team that caught me off guard was a team that I didn't really consider either one, but if I had to go on one side or the other, I thought they were a playoff contender due to their quarterback, and that was Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers alone made the Packers a playoff team. They had a questionable defense, but they had a nice safety. They had a nice offense, and they had a good check down. When you took away Cobb, when you took away Adams, when you took away Graham, he could check down to Montgomery. They got rid of both of them. So now I don't know what the chances the Packers have of making the playoffs or even making a playoff run. They're 3-1 right now, and then they get to play their first game against the Patriots without Dix, without Montgomery, and the Bears. I mean, the Bears seem to be having a decent season. They're kind of back and forth a little bit, but the Bears looking nice. The Lions, after scoring 3, seem to be hanging out around. The Vikings seem to be making it work with their offense, even though they just lost to the Saints. I think it was a crazy move for them to dump both those players, so that's my loser in this.
I'm going to say every team that traded away somebody in this draft at the trade deadline was a loser, except for Jacksonville. I think Dante Fowler was expendable. I think that defensive line was already good. He really wasn't making any headways, on that team. They already got a good front, good linebackers, good DBs. So I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are the only team that wasn't a loser. Matthew just pointed that out. You trade Ty Montgomery and Clinton Diggs, one of your best safety, after you done got rid of Michael Hyde and the rest of the crew that was already there. I think they're just trying to clean house now. I don't think that the Packers now go anywhere. Now, they still have Cobb and Graham and Adams and Allison. They got Aaron Jones back there. So it's not that much, but at this point, you can't afford to lose anybody. On an already bad defense, you trade away Clinton Diggs. What a great pickup that was for the Washington Redskins. They already have the 3rd best run defense in all of the NFL. Their pass defense, I think, was somewhere around that 10 to 14 range. Now you pair Clinton Diggs, who made us a Pro Bowl a couple years ago. I believe he also has 3 picks on the year. You pair him up with DJ Swearinger, who just had 2 picks last week. You have Josh Norman over there at the other corner. I think that helps them. My winners, I think it was every team that got somebody at the trade deadline. You think about what Golden Tate is going to be for this new Philly offense. To pair him with Alshon Jeffries and Carson Wentz, I just think that's a brilliant move for a team that's in second place in the NFC East race, 1 game behind the Washington Redskins, who also made a move and got better. You talk about Ty Montgomery to the Ravens. Imagine what that could do for Joe Flacco. He already has Alex Collins and Buck Allen, and now and Crabtree, and now you give him another guy who can kind of do it all. You talk about Demaryius Thomas to Houston. I mean, my God, look what Deshaun Watson did last week. 5 touchdowns. He's starting to come alive. since that ACL injury, and now you pair him with, to me, I think one of the top 3 wide receivers all in the NFL, and DeAndre Hopkins, and now you got an opposite to him, and I think Demaryius Thomas still have a lot left in him. Dante Fowler, I think the Rams win that. They don't really win it because Jacksonville didn't really need it, but they just got better on that defensive front. So just for me, I think every team that got somebody, they won that, because everybody that traded for somebody, they're right there in the playoff race, and you can't win a Super Bowl if you don't get to the playoffs. So, and just everybody that got rid of somebody, I mean, they were letting go key pieces. I guess that tells you what Denver is thinking about their season. They're just punting on the year. Detroit just punting on the year. They get rid of their best receiver. The Packers get rid of 2 guys. So for me, I just think if you got somebody, I think it was a key piece that they needed. And if you just got rid of somebody, it just tells you what these teams are thinking going forward in 2018.
So let me ask you guys a question on this topic real fast here. Let's say this is a successful moves for teams that are, kind of on the crest of the playoffs, and they get that extra guy and it pushes them into the playoffs this season. Do you anticipate the trade deadline being more exciting in the NFL if this happens moving forward, Billy?
I'm just going to say no. I just don't think, because this was an anomaly. It's, this don't normally happen. Matthew said it earlier when he was talking to people, and, they were saying this was one of the most exciting or wow the moves this year. I think, to me, this is just an anomaly. I don't see it happening. Matthew, you can go ahead, but I don't think this is gonna keep happening. It's not basketball.
Yeah, this was just the planets aligning. You just happened to have teams who was wanting to hit the reset button. You hit the nail on the head with Fowler. I think the Lions were willing to move on to some younger receivers and maybe focus more on a run game and trying to develop for the future. The Raiders didn't make any plays here, and they're a complete mess out there. But you had teams who were just willing to hit the reset button, which happens every 5-6 years for different teams. Then you just happen to have players that won it out. I think Golden Tate showed some disgruntledness. Deshaun Jackson didn't get moved, but I think that was part of Fitzpatrick coming back. There were just some guys who just kind of, the Montgomery ordeal, that was something that had been apparently brewing. There was rumors that they wanted Thomas out of Denver. They wanted to focus on Sanders and some of that young run game and get younger receivers with Sutton and everything. And then you throw in the fact that you had players, teams that are just that close. And really, Billy brought it up because I think on the last show when he was like, nobody wants to trade with New England. So nobody wants to trade with New England, and teams want to get better than New England. So you had some teams that decided to be aggressive, and it just everything lined up for one really fun trade deadline. I don't see it happening next year or year in and year out.
All right. And as speaking of teams that haven't made any moves in the playoffs and just are basically flat out horrible, Thursday night football game tonight, you have Oakland Raiders versus the San Francisco 49ers. Matthew, who do you got on this one and why?
They're giving us another dud. I'm not excited about this game at all. I watched both teams play last week. It looks like the Raiders seem to be getting a little something. Carr looked, even without Cooper, seemed to be finding some of the younger guys, some of the newer guys to the team. LaFell, found him for a touchdown. He seemed to be getting back to his tight end. And then the 49ers just seem to be kind of they beat the Cardinals, but they just kind of stumbled around. I'm not really impressed by any of their playmakers. They got Goodwin, who's a nice receiver, and Kittle at tight end. I don't think any of them finding a groove, but of a game between who's less worse, I got to go Raiders on this one.
I'm just going to go Mike, I don't know, man. Why NFL? This like the second week in a row. Who cares, man? I guess I'm gonna go San Francisco. They at home. I guess they less likely need the number one pick, being that they probably won't take a running back with that number one pick, and they already presume to have their quarterback. of the future. I mean, they paid Garoppolo all that money. He better be the quarterback. And now you got the Raiders on the other hand. I said it on Sunday, Mike. Do the Raiders really want to win this game? I know they have Carr, but do we really? I don't even know if John Gruden, even though he told him, yeah, your job is safe, he's our quarterback. We know how things work. It's a business. Yeah, it's lip service. Say whatever you need to the media. Say whatever you need to him because you don't really need his confidence going down just in case you have to keep him and you can't make a move in April whenever the draft is. So for me, I'm going to go the 49ers. And the 49ers haven't really played terrible. They've competed. So they're playing at home. I guess they get this win over the Raiders. It's going to be tough. Obviously, we know the 49er-Raider rivalry with the fans and all that other stuff. But I think San Francisco get it done, I guess. Do not quote me on that one, Mike.
The only reason I don't think the Raiders are really in tank mode is because I think John Gruden overvalued his worth to the team. He thought, or the city, to the organization. He thought he could come in and really just do everything, and they would love him because he was John Gruden. He was Spider Y Banana guy. No, that's not how it works. You mess with a so you've got to try to do something. Yes, you can tank, but let's not go 1-15, maybe 4-12. Give him something. You got to get a little here. And when I don't know who the best quarterback's going to be. I have questions on them all. We talked about what Herbert's doing next year, and Carr's. He shows some potential, and he kind of squeezes it. And then when you look at the mock draft, which is ever changing, but as of right now, the top 4 are Oliver out of Houston, the D lineman out of Alabama, Josh Allen out of Kentucky, and the linebacker out of LSU. Oakland Raiders could use any of those, and you never really know which one's going to pan out and which one's going to bust. So
that Oliver kid is for real. He is for real. So yeah, they could definitely use a pass rush. They got rid of Khalil Mack. I get your point. I just don't know. This is such a tough game because it's like, do we even know the mindset? I just think John Gruden is in rebuild mode because obviously he's getting rid of everybody. He's getting rid of his 2 best players. I thought. Yeah, go ahead.
But he's also killed his good face with the organization, with the city, with the fans. So I don't think. I mean, obviously, I don't think he'll be fired, but I think he'll be so hated if not only does he trade 2 of their best players, he also goes 1-15 and becomes a laughingstock. So I think what he needs to do is get on his scouting team. He needs to try to find somebody he can take at 4, 5, or 6, finish with 4 or 5 wins if possible. Then you got 3 draft picks this year. Get that scouting team. Try to find somebody nice at 5. Find somebody good at 14. And find a future star at 22. That's what he's got to do because I tell you, 1-15, even if he gets that number 1 pick, man, the pressure's there. And let's say John Gruden gets crazy and tries to take Will Greer at number 1. He just killed that franchise again, and there's no hope for the future. So, in my opinion, I get what you're saying with they definitely need players. He's got to start earning some of that graces back from the fans, and the only way he can do the deadline cash and the offseason is to find a way to win a game, especially against the lowly 49ers.
I just don't think, though, that he cares. He cares, so that's not what I'm saying. I don't think he cares about being in the fans' good graces right now. I think once he traded away Khalil Mack, the fans was already outraged. Then he goes and trade Amari Cooper, the fans are even more outraged, and you're already losing. I think he's already punted on this season. And to your point, I think if he gets the number 1 pick, I think he trades that away to get more picks. Because do he really need the number 1 pick? No, because I think Carr is a decent enough quarterback as long as you surround him with guys. So I think getting more draft picks, because the teams that's up there at the top, I don't think a lot of those need quarterbacks. I think they need other positions. And there's enough pass rushers, like you said, or there's enough defensive guys that's right up there at the top that he can kind of pick in that 4 or 5 range, or to trade that and pick in that 4 or 5 range and still get the guy that they need or that he probably wants.
Well, let me tell you the irony in all this. Now, obviously, I don't run an NFL team. I can't really, would call John Gruden and tell him this. But one thing I found very ironic and very funny is you shipped out Khalil Mack and you shipped out Amari Cooper because these guys were good, but you didn't think they were worth the new contract they're inevitably going to want next year, right? That seemed to be the consensus. Well, now you're drafting 6. If they do what you say, let's just say he trades his number 1 pick and gets a pick at number 5 this year and another first-round pick next year. That would give him 6 picks in the first round of the next 2 years. So let's just say he hits it out of the park and he drafts 6 studs. You know what's going to happen in 4 years? All 6 of those studs are going to get paid, and you're not going to be able to afford it. And we're going to be right back here where we were, where you're shipping off top-notch linebackers and top-notch receivers and top safeties because you can't afford to pay them because you drafted 3 guys in the 2 top 10s. That's the irony.
Now, what I heard on the Khalil Mack thing was he didn't really like his every down effort. So he didn't think the money that Khalil Mack wanted garnered his effort on the field. He wasn't a Von Miller type motor guy, and that's true. Like we talked about it after week 1, how Khalil Mack kind of raw dogged it towards the end of the game. So I think that's what was going on with Khalil Mack. Because John Gruden know how good Khalil Mack is. I think anybody with eyes could see how good Khalil Mack is. And then, you shipped off Amari Cooper because him and, I did the story on RTS Sports before it happened, that he was already planning to get rid of Cooper because him and Khalil Mack share the same agent. And being that he wasn't able to get a deal done with Khalil Mack, it was probably unlikely he was going to be able to get that deal done with Amari Cooper. Also, Joseph, the safety, they all have the same safety, which is the reason why they were talking about shipping all 3 of them out, because the ability to get the deal done probably wasn't going to happen being that you already had lost one of those little stalemates, so to speak, with Khalil Mack. But I get your point for sure.
And the point to that, and I would say that to a lot of coaches, don't let great get in the way of good. Yes, was he a monster like Von Miller? No, but very seldom are there. So, yes, I get it. You would prefer Khalil Mack earn every cent that you pay him, but we talked about this with a lot of players. We talked about this with Le'Veon Bell. You either do one or 2 things. You either let a guy go too soon and save money, or you overpay him for a couple years in the back end. And that's the only thing I'm saying is I get that he didn't like Khalil Mack playing every down. I don't think Khalil Mack plays every down like he should. But is the next guy? Is the guy after that? Is the guy after that? You know what I'm saying? Eventually he's going to have to pay somebody.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Players that play every down to the 110% of their ability are super rare. And if teams said we're not going to pay everybody that does that, I would imagine Matt Ryan wouldn't have a contract, Matt Campbell wouldn't have a contract. I get there with some other issues with the agency and maybe some attitude off the field that we don't know or in the locker room. But I'm just saying, I think it's ironic that he's eventually going to have to pay a lot of people. And
for sure.
He can't keep putting his organization through this.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up right there. As always, guys, thank you for joining us on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and now we're on Periscope as well, Periscope/Twitter. Be sure to, like and share this with a few friends. Speaking of sharing this with friends, unpopular opinion, Billy Hatton, where can people find your podcast at?
Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. I'm recording every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's 12 noon on Spreaker. If you guys follow the Unpopular Opinion Facebook page at Unpopular 2018, I always tweet out or post when I'm going live, and then I post when I am live. You can come join me, stop by. Also, the Unpopular Opinion Twitter page at Unpopular 2018. I also post after I'm done with the shows, I post the links there so you can go there. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
All right. And is Matthew still with you? Or do you have to go back?
He went back.
Alrighty, guys. So, as always, we'll be back here Sunday morning at 9:45 with the NFL Pick'em special going on. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon for breaking news updates as it comes available. if you guys were with us during the trade deadline for the NFL, we had some news break out about Amari Cooper, about Clinton Dix, Ty Montgomery, etc. The breaking news is probably going to slow down just because it's just that time of year. But once the NBA starts trading, Major League Baseball, etc., we'll be sure to break those guys as it comes available. So be sure to join us at 9:45 Sunday morning, East Coast time. We'll be live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter/Periscope. You can also follow us on podcasts as well. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Speaker, Breaker, etc. Basically, any podcast that you can find, we are available there. So be sure to follow that as well. So we'll catch you Sunday morning at 9:45 a.m. Have a good day.